Welcome to another episode of Primo Talks. When it comes to life, you got to have those people around you who have those gifts and talents like you have in order for you to implement those things, so you know that the things that you're doing is moving you towards those goals, those dreams, those realities that you saw in your life. This is not the time for you to take a step back. It's a time for you to be teleported. This is a place where you can actually get the information that you need that you can implement today. Let's talk. Welcome back to Primo Talks. If you never liked, subscribe, please hit the bell icon, support our channel. We definitely appreciate everyone who's been watching our videos lately. Today's show is going to be very interesting as we go through the big conversation that's going on right now. As you know, we already called the recession earlier. We called that already. We're happy to say that we stand behind that statement, and we still believe 100% the U.S. is in a recession right now, especially with the market crash that took place here in June. But not just that. Today's show is strictly talking about this. And this is another part of us seeing the recession that we're in. Last month, we seen Bitcoin crash. Last month, we seen a notification. It was printed in on Bloomberg where they reported that Melvin Capital, it's not a secret, guys, a lot of hedge funds are collapsing right now. And that's because there's a high watermark that they shot through coming out of the market crash that took place in March of 2020 when we went through COVID. That 33-day recession that we went through during COVID before the market took off destroyed a lot of hedge funds. And there's many more. I'm going to do a whole episode on all of these hedge funds right now that may be having your money from your 401k, or a bank took a position in it. But we know that Citadel, and we know that also not just Citadel, but we know that Point72 also is in a situation where they gave money to Melvin Capital. Now, you may be saying, what is Melvin Capital? Let me explain. During the shutdown, one of the positions that a lot of hedge funds took was the short position. Melvin Capital normally has 2/3 of their portfolio always in a short position, which means they make the majority of their money, and their 30% annually they be making. They started up back in 2014, and from 2014 up into 2020, they were always on the short side, 2/3, and making 30% consistently. Well, Melvin Capital found themselves on the wrong end of the stick after that 33-day recession. This is what I talked about. As I said, what is a market crash with a recession? It is a natural forest fire that allows everybody the opportunity to have an even playing field. Every so many years, we have a natural forest fire that goes through that takes out the big trees that's getting all the water and the sunlight and bringing everything down to the ground level so that everybody can grow. And Melvin Capital was one of those big trees that got crushed. They got an influx of $2.7 billion from Citadel and Point72. And here was an interesting thing. In April, a notice went out from Gabe Polatsky, who basically stated that, oh man, guys, I can't keep running this company for free. Even though he got an influx back in 2020 to continue, he got $2.7 million for Citadel and Point72. He basically found out when they gave him this money, they basically became stakeholders in the company. So now, the way that a hedge fund makes money is this way. Let's check it out. What happened to hedge funds in 2022? A lot of them are dealing with this right now. HighWater Marks. Now, you might have never heard this, but I want you to remember HighWater Marks. But how does a hedge fund make money? Management fees and performance fees. Gabe Polatsky, managing partner of Melvin Capital, to his investors, he sent out a letter. And he basically told them this: I'm not working for free. He lost literally $8 billion in 2020. And he lost already this year another 28%. When he started off, so you got to take in consideration that he grew his fund to $20 million. He lost $8 million. And then he lost another 20% this year alone. So when Citadel and Point 72 got involved and they bailed him out, they made him liquidity so he had a little bit more money because he got caught in a short sale between GameStop, oh, we all know that was a bad one, and AMC. And because of that, that was back then when Robinhood was kind of sending out information, telling the Citadels where to do it. Well, this was one of the guys who got the memo, short this stock. This was all the retail traders, but they made a fundamental mistake. They thought it was a pump and dump, but in reality, it wasn't a pump and dump yet. Later, it became that, but it wasn't yet. And because they got in too early, they got crushed. Well, there's a high watermark. High watermark basically means this. It's when you raise money for a hedge fund, you put some disclosures out there basically stating that if you don't do a good job, you don't have to pay any management fees to us or no performance fees to us until we recoup your money. That's right. That means they got to recoup your money. Then they will get a management fee and they'll get a performance fee. Well, here was the problem. They lost so much money. It'll take six years before they'll get a paycheck. This guy said, oh, no. I'm not working for 6 years. See, it's going to take him to do 150% return to recoup the money that he blew up. Now, I always say this. You don't have to be a retail trader to blow up your account. You don't have to have a 401k to watch your account drop. You could just be a hedge fund. And then you're really in trouble. So he sent a letter out and he actually had the nerve to ask his investors, is it okay if, even though it's already in the offering document, the HighWater Mark agreement, could we waive that? Because I got 30 employees, 30, that I need to motivate and incentivize. Now remember, these are the 30 that actually was making these trades, not necessarily him. And he got 30 employees he need to incentivize to get them excited to come to work that he can't pay. And when they said, wait, is it true? You got 2.7 of liquidity so that you can continue to run the fund so we can recoup our money. This is all part of the agreement. And this guy basically said, forget it. I am unwrapping the fund and I need to take a step back and I only need to manage my money. I don't need to manage outside money. But if anybody is interested, I'll start another fund where you can come over with me. What? He's going to start another fund? And he's not going to work for free. Management fees and performance fees, if he can't get paid on your money, he's not going to work for that. Forget that. On top of that, Citadel and Point 72, they got to get paid. So not only he got to recoup money, these two, they gave the $2.7 billion liquidity so he can keep his fund open. They told him, okay, they got to get paid. So first he got to recoup 150%. If he's doing 30% annually, that's 5 years, guys. No pay. That means in 6 years, he got to pay back the 2.7, this plus interest. He got to pay this plus interest back to Citadel and Point 72. And you know what he said? You remember that song? Na 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 na, hey, goodbye. When people lose, na 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 na. You know how that go? He just told them goodbye. Guys, this is the results. We've seen this before. We've seen this during the Great Recession of 2008, which everyone keeps calling the mortgage crisis, but it's really called the Great Recession. We're starting to see the next leg of what we're talking about. So again, you see it took place in April. He's asking his people to waive the high water fees. Second, in May, he begins to make the announcement. But in June, that's it. I'm not doing any of this anymore. He says, he made it look. He talked to him. He went back and forth. But now in the month of June, he is liquidating, giving them whatever he can give them back, which is a lot. And I'm just tell you, a lot of people lost money. A lot of people in this fund lost money, all because of this one thing. And I continue to tell people, because when you make fees off people money, that's all you do. That's what you focus on. And as soon as his focus was he couldn't get management fees and performance fees. Now, I will agree with you guys. How can he get a performance fee when he lost so much money? There's no performance. Now, if he continues to operate, now one thing about hedge funds, they got to have some of their money involved. So he lost some of his money too, but he didn't lose all his money. That's the reason he says, okay, let me go ahead and if whatever I have left, I'm just going to unwise this, take this little bit of cash, start over, do my own thing. The problem that I always say is this: the best way you learn is by staying in there and fixing. See, it's easy to have good year after good year after good year, but you remember I told you, you don't grow in life until you get knocked down. That's when you learn how to operate. Do you think, I mean, he was a byproduct of coming out of 2008. In 2008, he was working for Citadel. In 2014, he started his fund. This is his first time going through a market crash, and he didn't survive. And he quits. Instead of working through and seeing it, now don't get me wrong, it's not saying that he couldn't, but he basically stated this: these 30% a year, but he also has 30 employees. These employees that he has, that he wants to incentivize, that he wants to keep, he can't keep all of them. He can't. You got to understand that if you keep those employees and they still lack the lesson, all you're doing is incentivizing no adjustment. Remember, we got to manage, we have to monitor, we got to adjust, and most importantly, you got to control. Control what? Control your emotions, because investing, when you got emotions, is a very dangerous thing, because your emotions don't necessarily allow you to adjust correctly. And if you don't control that, investing can be very dangerous, because you should have some things that's beyond your emotions, like a hard stop to get your butt out of something. And most people have a very, very hard time because they're emotional and they're prideful, that they don't like to quit. I mean, it's almost like that, if you ever seen those children that wrestle, you say, okay, stop. They call mercy. You let them up and they jump back on you. That's the kind of behavior he got. How come I say that? Because he's in a situation where you go back and you say, okay, what do we do wrong? Let's go back and let's correct this. Figure out every way that you can do it. Because remember, if this was a company, and you was operating a company versus a fund, you would still have to do a turnaround plan for a company. Again, the company's not bankrupt. I mean, we just seen Meta. I mean, they lost a lot on their market cap. Look at all of these companies. I mean, Bitcoin crashing. Those are not companies. Those are funds too, in a way. I'll go over that in a different video. But I just want you to understand, people who have companies, they're going through the process of changing some things. There's some massive losses as well. Shareholders' overall equity went down. Some people bought at the top. So he's not in a different situation than people who run companies, but that's the difference from a fund, because they make their money. That's how they make their money, managing. Again, it's not like they're running the companies. They are managing people's money. But if they actually ran a company, the skills to me will be way more broader, that their reaction wouldn't be this way. And he would have had a hard stop in there, because he would have done, okay, I lost money, let me get out of this trade and be done with it. Which meant that there was a circuit breaker, because he went through his HighWater Mark, and it should have been so many. I mean, when a plane fails, it got so many fail-safe. You got to understand, when a plane fails, that means it's human error. Gabe has some human error, and he got 30 people he's trying to hang on to, want to incentivize, so he's just going to say, I don't care, I'm out. Now, this is one of the hedge funds, but we're going to do a series over all of them. I just wanted to come kind of give you this so you can go look up Melvin Capital, look up the Bloomberg article, see what he says, see how the investors who invest with him, he asked them, hey, I got to pay my bills. That's why I always tell people, before you start a company, before you manage a fund, you already have previous obligations. And those previous obligations that you have trump people's equity stake. We always say debt has priority over equity, and this is a primary example that debt has priority over equity, because Gabe Polskins basically told you, Plotkins basically said, hey, you know what? I'm out of here because my debt has rights over equity. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. I wanted to give you this short video. Wanted to tell you what's going on in the marketplace. Just showing you more examples that we're in a recession right now. The government doesn't want to call it. Powell is saying that they're going to keep raising the interest rates just in case. Keeping markets emotions. But I'm going to tell you now, just like they made the statement before, where the virus came from, and it wasn't true, we're in a recession, and you can believe that is true. We'll see you next time.